lips and face the wind. An open road and a road that's hidden. A brand new life around the bend.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Angela, the show. This is the show where we do an episode recap of Who's the Boss, and then we talk about we do a little thought experiment where we imagine what it would be like if Tony Maselli had never been born. I'm one of your hosts, Nathan P. Woodard.
And I'm the other one, Andrew James Estes. Big bosser over here. Hey. Watched that show growing up. Decided, hey, I want to be a boss too.
That's right.
I wonder if most of the bosses around the world got their first taste from this show and decided, hey, yeah, that'll be me one day.
Yeah, that's
boss.
You see that a lot in Forbes when they interview people. They're like, well, you know, what really drives you as a CEO of a Fortune 500 company? They're like, well, I think it was when I read the biography of Tony Maselli from Brooklyn. Hey. Today we're discussing,
or perhaps a big Judith Light Angela fans. This is Angela's show.
This is Angela the show, yeah. Honestly,
there is not an answer in that title, just a question.
There is a question, but I think it is pretty apparent in today's cultural lens who the boss was there. There's really the only thing that Tony has going for him is a penis, and that doesn't carry as much water as it did back in 1984.
I'm glad that our penises are what they are now and not what they were in 1984, because frankly, we don't need them to carry water. I mean, hammering them flat and curving up the bruised and bloody foreskin so that it makes a crude bowl, completely unnecessary.
Mine leaks.
Oh.
Today we're discussing season 2, episode 3, entitled "Ad Man Maselli." This is well, should we just get into it?
Yeah, let's run out with the synopsis of this episode.
This episode starts out with a cold open gag. It's Tony is making meatball subs in the kitchen, and Mona comes in and says, are we having meatball sandwiches for breakfast? And he says, no, lunch. She says, I give those things an hour until they're cold and congealed and covered in gray grease. And then Tony says, no, not the way I do it. And then he proceeds to drop 2 meatball subs in lengthwise into 2 thermoses and screw the lids on.
With a level of deftness and skill that should not be possible when you're talking about a true meatball sub. There's no way that he should have been able to. I mean, the man effectively put his pants on 2 legs at a time. I'm still a little bit in wonder. It was a great sight gag.
This is truly the sort of thing that really, this is what he had going for him that even gave anyone an inkling that he could have been the boss, was that kind of just adeptness at
we also
tasks.
Every single episode in the opening credit, we see him being able to use a vacuum cleaner to clean the drapes.
Yeah, I suppose that's something.
I mean, he's not taking them out and putting them over a line and beating them with one of those weird wire drape beaters that they had in the days of yore. He's using, he's taking modern technology, and not only is he amazing at using it how it's intended, he's repurposing this. Like he's completely revolutionizing how housekeeping is done.
Yeah. So from there, Tony he's having a conversation with the ladies of the house about his daughter Samantha's clothes that he picked out for her, which is a little odd, but he seems to care. He says that it's the first day of middle school and that he's been looking in Teen Scene magazine for bodacious fashions, and he hopes that she'll be accepted into the middle school. And we find out from Mona that Angela was a dork who was bullied constantly in middle school, and it's a big concern of everyone. And I have a note here because it goes on to show that Alyssa Milano's character, the aforementioned Sam, is dressed kind of like Madonna, and she goes to school on the first day, and all the other girls are dressed in a similar fashion. And I wrote in my notes here, "My God, the sound of the bangles." And I'm not talking about the band. I'm talking about the sheer amount of plastic jewelry in this episode is deafening. Like, there was no way they could get rid of it. It's just so much chunky plastic jewelry banging around in every scene that it drowns out the dialogue at points.
I have written down plastic jewelry and giant Minnie Mouse bows.
Oh, those Minnie Mouse bows.
All the girls are wearing those incredibly oversized head bows, like, and it made me wonder, when Minnie Mouse wore it, is it because they don't make bows small enough to go on a mouse's head so it looks gigantic being on a mouse? Or was that just the fashion, is that Minnie wanted a bow that large?
Well, it's funny because there is a point later on in the episode where they're at a slumber party, all the girls, and it just cuts to them and they're singing the chorus to Material Girl, and they stop midway through singing the first part of a stanza, and then they all laugh, like they're all holding hands and laughing. It's such a strange thing. They were just trying to show this is what teen girls are like now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
there were a lot of pop cultural touchstones thrown out in this episode that really put it in its place in time.
But it also made me think, like, this is, I remember like being a child at the time at this moment in history, and people being scandalized by what a slut Madonna was. And this is what she was doing. Giant Minnie Mouse bow and like tons of chunky plastic jewelry.
All of the women's fashion on display in Who's the Boss is very chaste. Like, it's not revealing. There's much more attention paid to accessorizing than
even Mona, the horny grandma, doesn't show too much skin. She talks about fucking a lot. But that's pretty much where it ends.
And I'm pretty sure the only skin you ever see of Judith Light's are her face and her hands, because she's just forever draped in far more cloth than it takes to cover her entire body. Like, there's extra ruffles. Like, when she wears a turtleneck, it's like a turtleneck's turtleneck.
There's,
it's like they stack one more on top of it, and her face has to fight to get out.
I was gonna say that I always say that, you know, the sexiest thing is to me is just wondering what's underneath those giant shoulder pads. Is there giant shoulders? Is there more titties up there?
Ooh.
I'll only find out on our wedding night, Judith Light.
Gives a new meaning to the phrase, I've seen the light.
I mean,
you can only do it by marrying Judith.
But enough about the raw sexuality of the ladies on Who's the Boss. I actually put in my notes, because there is a thing where I don't remember what the line was, But I wrote, there was a time when Italian was a kind of sexy guy.
They frequently would compare him to other Italian American actors.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone in this
They
episode.
they say, he's looking at himself in the mirror and they're like, oh, do you think Sylvester Stallone's in trouble? And I don't see them as being similar actors, except that they're both kind of a character from an old Billy Joel song.
Well, Tony Danza was a professional boxer before he became an actor, so they do. And Sylvester Stallone has convinced America that he's pretty much a professional boxer. So
Yeah.
they've got that going, that connection. And I think that Danza hosted one season of The Contender, the Stallone boxing show, but they're apples and oranges still, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. I have in my notes here. Mona's talking about that Tony should let Sam have her friends over for a slumber party, and he seems kind of weird about it. He doesn't. I don't know what his misgiving was, considering that his level of domesticity really doesn't make me think that he thinks he can't handle. He's like complaining that the kids don't come over. He doesn't meet these kids, but then he seems hesitant about the slumber party. And then he goes on when Mona says, oh, you have a pillow fight, you practice kissing, and Tony gets real serious. He says, with who? Which we're talking about like a 12-year-old girl's slumber party. It's not like there's going to be boys there. I got a little worried that Tony was being homophobic, but then a moment later, he explains that he practiced kissing in the back of a Chevy. So I guess that him and his buddies, that's what they would do in high school.
Yeah. That's the kind of car his friend drove. So, of course, that's where they practice kissing.
Before they got on to kissing
They're not
girls.
They break into somebody else's car to practice kissing.
Maybe they were. Maybe that's what he was worried about. They would break into a car and kiss an old hobo.
Hobo's mad at first. He's saying, "This is my home." You want to kiss? That's fine then. Wish this would happen more often.
The guy's sleeping in his car. He's not even like a proper homeless guy. He's just a guy who's been thrown out of the house by his wife, and he's then young Tony Danza just Slim Jim's the door in the middle of the night. He's like, what are you doing? What's going on? And he's shh. Anyway, so back to the plot here. Angela has a date on Friday. Tony decides to do it on Friday because it'll be more of a surprise. And Angela has a date that night. Tony seems upset about Angela's date. Did you notice this?
Yes.
He's like, who's it with? And I was thinking, like, he even goes so far as to say, like, she says, like he's kind of hamming it up, and she says, I won't be out all night. Or he says, I guess you won't be out all night. Wait, you won't be out all night, will you? Like he's concerned that she's going to go out and fuck her date, which is a weird vibe to get from your housekeeper.
Yes.
Unless you're Ben Affleck, I suppose.
And that's one of the central problems of the premise of this show. They want to have it both ways, where this is a good family show, but sitcom writers don't know what to do if they aren't proposing a will they, won't they. And I think they won't they their way through like the first 5 seasons of this show or something like that.
I remember them having this kind of will they won't they Sam and Diane contrivance in the show that when I watched it as a kid, but I guess I never picked up on the fact that it wasn't just like because of the professional relationship that they have, I kind of assumed that the will they won't they would be a little more tame, like the idea of your housekeeper, but they are just horny on Maine.
Yeah.
And she's going out on a date, but she's kind of like, enjoying the fact that her housekeeper, the Italian sexy guy, is getting a little jealous about it. Like that is.
I think I've watched 9 or 10 episodes today, and 2 out of those episodes had scenes where Tony sleeps on the couch so that he can be there when Angela finally gets home to have an important conversation with her about whatever date or whoever she was with.
Yeah, they live in the house, right?
Yeah,
that's
they have
part
their
of
own rooms, but Tony doesn't have a problem. He's not just mothering and fathering his daughter, but also this woman and her daughter. He is mother and father to all of them.
Now Angela
depending
has a
on the
son.
episode. Depending on the episode.
Yes, that's true. So Angela goes out on her date, and then these girls, Robin Fraser, the most popular girl in school, comes over, and Mona is she tells the little girls that she's going to go make room in the freezer because the first person to go asleep gets their bra frozen. Right. And then Tony and Mona go to the kitchen and, to my surprise, just started taking everything out of the freezer as they had a conversation. They were serious. I thought it was just, one of those, like the wacky grandparent in a sitcom says something. You don't take them serious. And certainly everyone doesn't just go along with their, hauling ass to Lollapalooza hijinks. But here we have Tony helping Mona take everything out of the freezer. And then he says, "Why are we taking so much out of the freezer?" And she says, "Well, maybe I'll be the first one to fall asleep," which is a little shocking. Are we to understand that this old lady wants the children at the slumber party to take her bra and freeze it?
Yeah. And should they have to, Katherine Hellman wears a big fat bra. It's going to take up most of the room in the freezer.
Yeah, that's how bras work. Maybe that's the thing. It's a very padded bra.
Yeah.
Whatever
Maybe it's
her name
one
is.
of the, to fit in with the kids, she's planning on wearing that Madonna cone bra.
Yeah, she's got the cone bra. Yeah. So
Which really the prank with one of those is to put them in the freezer but fill them up with water. So you get some conical ice cubes in there. There's no room to put what God gave you in there anymore till they thaw. In the cone bra.
So we have this the kids can just eat the ice cream out of it later.
Yeah. Maybe fill it up with frozen peas.
Yeah, there you go. You put it on so you get a black eye, you can just put it on your eye. Back in the living room, Robin, the popular girl, is asking about how nice this house. She's saying, "Oh, this house is it's lovely ceilings. What does your father do for a living?" And Sam tries to kind of dodge the question. She says, "My dad really cleans up. My dad's great. What does your dad do?" And she says, "My dad is a congressman, but he made most of his money in the private sector," which is very fishy.
Yeah, that may be true, but that's not like what you tell your child to say. I mean, especially if you're a congressman.
Father, what do you do? I'm a legitimate businessman.
Oh,
I own a very legitimate dumpster company.
Legitimate Dumpsters LLC.
You'll love this thing of ours. But then they're asking the other girls at the slumber party what their dads do. And this one girl says something. She's like, I don't know, but he won a Nobel Prize.
This girl was the MVP of the episode for me.
Real
think her name
champ.
was Julia, and also early in the episode, her at the middle school when they were setting up the sleepover, her sartorial choices. She looked like she worked at a Wiener Schnitzel. She had the big primary color blocks. Also,
Yeah.
her father won a Nobel Prize, but she doesn't know what for, and she's very slow on the uptake and sells everybody's jokes for the remainder of the episode.
Yeah, it is probably the brightest writing in the episode is this gag where the dumbest girl in the room is introduced by her saying that her dad won a Nobel Prize. Like, my hat's off to the writers of this episode because that gag really sells itself on a second watch. The idea that this incredibly stupid girl who just continues to be stupid for the next half hour starts off her introduction with, my dad won a Nobel Prize.
And as stupid as she is, she clearly got away. She a much more successful liar than our group of Who's the Boss family. Because this is one big sad lie where I feel a little hurt for all of them, and this girl is just going, yeah, he won a Nobel Prize or something, and all these other girls just accept that. You know, why go through all these shenanigans to make your lie bigger and better and more believable when these rubes will clearly buy anything.
Yeah, maybe he won a Nobel Prize for do they give a Nobel Prize for a scenario like if you adopted the orphan child of a woman who drank a gallon of paint and died?
Yeah, well, she didn't say which Nobel Prize it was. I mean, I think that's Alfred Nobel for the proper Nobel prizes, but who's to stop Marty Nobel from giving out a prize?
Yeah, it's a different Nobel.
You got that name, it's like gold. You just start printing out prizes.
It's Martin Nobel. He's actually the grandson of Alfred Nobel, and he wanted to. You know how Alfred Nobel started the prize because of his regret over the invention of dynamite.
Yes.
And then his son, what would we say, Marty?
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yes, Marty. He also started his own prize, but it was because he regretted inventing rubber dog do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot to own up to. I don't know if that prize is really saved.
He has to atone.
But the one good thing about that is there's a built-in thing that you can leave on his tombstone to let him know how you think about him. And he invented that. And that's beautiful.
You know what I'd like to have on my tombstone is just like the little bell from Long John Silver's. And people can come and ring it and tell me if they liked me when I was alive. Hey, how'd I do? Ring the bell.
You should I think you should have 2 strings attached to that bell, one for the people up top,
One for
in
me,
case you're buried
in case I'm
alive.
alive.
Yeah. You know, 2 birds, 1 stone, 2 strings, 1 bell.
If the bell rings, if the string from underground goes, then the employees of Long John Silver's know they did a good job.
You want
Don't
the
dig me
actual-
up.
Like, are we
Don't
just
dig
gonna
me up. I
write-
just like those clams.
Well, if they do dig you up, fill you up, the crevices around you with fried batter.
Yeah,
Put you back down there.
they just put me in a little bed of batter bits. To put 2 hush puppies over my eyes.
Oh, but you're gonna have to give that to
I'm gonna-
Charon as fee for him ferrying you across the river of the dead.
Yeah, you got to give one of your hush puppies to the boatman. Oh,
I like that idea of the boatman because instead of wearing a long black cloak, he's wearing a bright yellow fisherman's jacket.
yeah.
It's the guy from Gortman's Fish Sticks down there.
This motherfucker says Gortman's. All right, back to the story.
Yeah.
So
and we got to get to Angela. I mean, this lead is buried at this point.
whew. Okay, so
The show's her show. She's the boss.
Sam here, she's a little embarrassed about the fact that her dad is a housekeeper, a live-in housekeeper for a lady, and that the lady gets sexual gratification from demeaning him in front of everyone when he's so horny he can't hide it. But then she goes out on dates, cuckolds him. And so Sam makes up a lie. She tells everyone that Tony is, in fact, has Angela's job as the president of an ad agency. Which, I forget what the name of the agency is. Do you recall?
No, I didn't write that down. I do think it's different, a different name than her own. I think at this point she doesn't. I'm seeing on Wikipedia that it's season 3 when she owns her own firm.
Yeah.
So she's acting president of an already established firm.
Yeah, this stuck out to me because I was like, that's interesting that she isn't a partner at the firm she's a president of. But I guess for a woman that makes sense, right? Like,
yeah,
they
so.
wouldn't make her partner in 1984. But
and a year later, she's going to leave and start her own firm from scratch because she's not. She's all the way to where her face is pressed against the glass ceiling, so it's time to branch out.
But like when she tells her friends that her dad, Tony Maselli, is the president of this, that's where I think it starts to fall apart. Like if you're a woman, everyone's like, oh, it's because she's a woman. But if you're a guy and you're like, yeah, I'm the acting president of this firm, but I don't get my name on it. You're like, oh, they must have like found child pornography on your computer or something. Like, why are they holding him back? Because he's Italian?
I don't know. I don't think that like I was talking about before. They bought the other girl saying that her dad won a Nobel Prize. Like I think it's almost the fact that it's sadder that Tony thinks that he needs to lie. Like he is clearly. He sees that Sam is ashamed of him, and so he's feeling bad enough about himself that he thinks he needs to go into detail on these lies that his daughter's told her friends that she's had for 3 days about him.
You know what? Now that I think about it, this kind of makes sense because I'm willing to bet that one, what is it, Jennifer, the dumb one?
I think it was Julia.
Julia doesn't even know what her dad won a Nobel Prize for. And Robin Fraser, her dad made most of his fortune in the private sector, right? She's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. My dad is also the president of a shell corporation that launders cocaine money for the CIA.
and possibly not true. Like both of these things, if somebody told me that that's what their parent did, I would raise a weird eyebrow at them.
Yeah.
When you're in middle school, you probably wouldn't, but they would have, bought anything that you said. Like it did not need to be this lie where we say that Tony's got Angela's job and Angela's got Tony's job. But
Yeah.
the conceit of the show in general is traditionally we would have Tony have the job that Angela has. Like it's already a switch, so it's like they're trying on a reversal of that. But
Yeah, I just kind of, I actually wrote in my notes, this is more questions than I have ever had about my friend's house or parents.
yeah.
And to be honest, just don't care.
Yeah, and these girls are here for Madonna sing-alongs and to play Truth or Dare, which is a game that gets completely shut down by this weird family drama that didn't really need to happen, except that there's clearly a lot of unresolved issues in this dynamic.
Yeah. And of course, so what happens is that Tony walks in on Sam telling her friends about how he's this president of an ad agency and that he came up with some ad that they all know. And he goes back into the kitchen and he's a little wounded about it, that his daughter is ashamed that her dad is a bit of a sexy pool boy.
Yeah. Revolutionizing housekeeping with his meatball sub and
meatball
the
thermos
maneuver.
Yeah. And he calls his daughter into the kitchen and they have a talk about it, and she feels bad. She says, I just want them to like me. And he says, come on now, you can't lie to your friends. And so he sends her back in there, and she's in the process of telling them that she lied when they start gushing about how they've decided that she's their new best friend and that they're so excited to have her on the cheerleading squad. And Tony panics. And he starts going along with the lie. He just starts repeating a conversation that Angela had about people working together. Sam gets as far as to say that her dad didn't create that ad. And then Tony jumps in and starts parroting Angela's monologue from earlier about how it's a whole team effort and, hiring the right people and a creative project coming together. He does this whole thing, and I paused it and I just sat with that for a minute, I wrote down in my notes, Tony Micelli possesses a certain ethical myopia where what is right is only right insofar that it is abstract and devoid of any dialectical criticism. One can assume he has never examined the realities of honesty and dishonesty and literally thinks Sam's slumber party will be the high point of her life if she is allowed to live in this lie for one night, rather than her looking back at this moment as where her father exposed his own two-dimensional, unevaluated morality and look back at it as the crucible where an adolescence of humiliation was forged. Like, what was his end game? And what brought me to this realization was that he never really goes into why it's wrong to lie. He just says it's wrong to lie. Go back in there and tell the truth. And then as soon as he sees some sort of immediate short-term benefit, he's like, oh no, oh shit, yeah, they were lying. I get it. It's like he's never thought about lying before either. He makes up this absurd lie that will clearly come back to bite his daughter in the ass. If not tonight, then whenever.
And he is a completely guileless character. It's not like he's entering in this to help teach her a lesson. He needs to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
But
the whole family ends up going along with it. And at this point, Angela gets home from her date with this guy named Andrew. And they say, who is that? Is that your mom? And then the Andrew guy goes, well, are you married? And then Tony comes running over and says, "Yes, this is my wife. We've been married since the wedding." And they convince Angela to go along with this. Mona throws poor Andrew out of the house.
Yes,
And they have this...
Tony drags Angela off to the kitchen, and Mona immediately goes about dispensing with her daughter's date.
Now, and then they all go along with this. And at this point in my notes, I just wrote in all caps, "family of dipshits," because I can't figure out what they thought was going to happen. But Mona is just kind of I wrote chaotic good, because she's just trying to force them into more and more lies. And she just has a shit-eating grin on her face the entire time.
Yeah, she had no horse in the race. She just wanted to be entertained. Some people just want to watch the world turn.
Yeah, she is a proto-Joker. So Mona basically makes the whole thing fall apart. They go to open presents, and Tony got Sam a locket with a picture of him and her now deceased mother in it. And at that point, Sam gives up. She doesn't want to continue with the charade any longer. She comes clean, and Tony almost tries to continue to lie for her. And then they just admit, and then all of the popular girls say it's cool, and they still like her. And then she says, "Hey, oh, hey." And then that's the oh no, there is a denouement, a little post-credits sequence where they're in the kitchen the next day, and Angela goes to get something from the fridge, and her bra is in there. Woo-wee!
Yes,
and I also wrote
they acknowledge the fact that they did not need to take so much out because it's Angela's bra.
Ba ba ba
So
boom.
there is a little bit of some bust shaming happening between mother and daughter.
Yeah. I also, final note, I wrote, Tony Danza has a "keep on truckin" tattoo.
Yeah, that was their concession for the episode, is they didn't find a reason for him to take his shirt off. Seemed inappropriate at his daughter's sleepover party. But we're gonna make him sleeveless in the stinger at the end.
Yeah. That's incredible. He had a "keep on truckin" tattoo. Very funny. Now, of course, that was just the synopsis. We've discussed it, but what we really do here that sets us apart from all the other Who's the Boss podcasts is this is Angela the show. This is where we imagine how this episode would have gone had there never been a Tony Maselli. So the episode would start out with I guess it would be Angela making breakfast for her son. What was her son's name? He's only in this episode for a split second.
Jonathan.
Jonathan, yes. So she's making breakfast for Jonathan. And I would assume that Jonathan is getting like a granola bar or something, because she's such a business
probably something
lady.
Very quick. It's like a cold cereal or something she can just unwrap and hand it to him. Pop-Tarts, granola bar.
And then there is no Tony, so there is no Sam. It's just, I would say Mona probably still lives with them. Angela is frazzled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't even have time for dating. Doesn't go on a date.
I don't know. At this point in time, is Mona still living elsewhere? Or is she living in Angela's garage? Because they build an apartment, and Mona lives in the backyard at some point.
Yeah.
So I would think that, kind of, if you have your mother living on your property, she's probably going to help you as a single mother.
You see, I was thinking that, and I was also thinking that, as we do in every episode, would Mona live in the house if it weren't for Tony and Sam? And I think, we always come back to this on the show. No, because Mona is too horny. She has to have a detached apartment.
This is one woman that takes all of the powers of the Golden Girls and becomes one. She's like their Captain Planet. She has the raw sexuality of a Rue McClanahan, but she can insult you and just like make you sit and stew in your own worthlessness like B. Arthur can. But there are times she's completely innocent and just along for the ride like Rose.
Yeah.
Like she's got all of those powers.
She's got
and
all
it's probably too much for her clearly sexually frustrated daughter.
She has all the powers of the entire Golden Girls rolled into one lady. Yeah.
And she had to. Like they didn't have the they couldn't get a second old lady on the same level as a Catherine Hellman. She just had to do all this extra duty, soldier on, and God bless her for it.
Yeah. So maybe we have to have some tension in this story. So if Angela isn't going on a date, what are we gonna do?
I don't know why she can't go on a date. I want her to go on a date.
Well, who's
that
gonna
was
watch
my biggest
Jonathan?
frustration with, Mona, hopefully. But,
Oh.
maybe Mona's on a date. Though clearly Mona wasn't on a date at this point in time. She was just...
I've got it.
What do you got?
So we open on the first scene, and we have Angela in the kitchen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's got a box of Captain Crunch, and Mona comes in from her little mother-in-law suite, and she sees Angela with the Captain Crunch, and she says, "Are you letting Jonathan have that sugary cereal before school? You should make him eggs or oatmeal or something." And she says, No, this is his lunch," and just pours it into a lunchbox and shuts it. It was a perfect inversion of the opening gag of this episode.
Yeah, and
without Tony
Mona
around.
can still say in an hour or two that is going to be curdled sog mess.
Mm-hmm. So Mona comes in, and they're all standing around the kitchen talking, and Mona starts talking about how she's been seeing this younger man, and oh boy, he is wearing her out, and she makes some ribald jokes about it, and then she says, you should, Angela, when are you gonna find a man? And Angela says, "Oh, I if I had a housekeeper, then maybe I could date, but it's just too much taking care of Jonathan full time and being a powerful, successful president of an ad agency that I am not a partner at for some reason." And Mona says, "Well, you know what? I don't think that my pussy can take anymore. I need a night off. Why don't I stay home with Jonathan and you go get you some?" So Angela says, "Well, I don't know, and she's like, "Oh, come on. No, you can't. She says, "Don't you have anyone, anyone that you'd go out with?" And she says, "No, I don't really." And she says, "Well, why don't you go to this singles bar? Because I feel like that's a thing in the 80s, right?"
Absolutely.
And that's totally where Mona would prowl about.
That's where Mona would prowl, and Angela wouldn't necessarily know where to get a date because she's married to her job, and there'd be no bigger mistake that she could make than to date within her workplace, where she already gets significantly less respect than she deserves.
Yeah. So
she would maybe take that advice. I'm buying it thus far.
Yeah, and it's a great setup for like a kind of a funny fish out of water, business lady doesn't know how to flirt anymore because she's just a professional woman. So we get some funny scenes of her out at this bar, and then eventually a guy does sit down next to her at the bar. He's kind of a good looking guy, and he offers to buy her buy Angela a drink, and they start talking, and they're vibing, and then it cuts back to Mona trying to take care of Jonathan, and she's letting him watch a scary movie.
Ooh.
Which is kind of funny because he's like insisting that he wants to, and Mona is like incredulous at first. And also this is like 1984, so it'll be like it would have a name like
TV?
It would be like the space boogers that came to life or something like that.
It's totally a drive-in movie, a 50s or 60s sci-fi inflected horror movie.
Yeah. So Mona agrees to let Jonathan watch this thing, and then she dozes off. You can see that she's in the chair letting him watch this show, and he's dressed in cowboy pajamas, and you hear like a TV, that classic like TV sound effect noise, like the when somebody's, there's no real dialogue, or maybe like there is dialogue. That would even be better, if we recorded some canned dialogue that was supposed to be from this show. You don't get to see, you only see the back of the TV. Kind of like,
yeah.
Doctor, what is it?
Well, Stevens, it seems that the skin has fled from the bone structure of the face. It is creeping and crawling all the way from the skull, revealing the empty eye sockets that you see before you.
My God, there's so much blood.
Yes, well, that's why we've collected it here in this bucket, the science bucket.
Be careful with that. Oh, no!
My science bucket has been spilled.
The blood, it's coming to life.
Oh, my goodness. I never thought I'd see the face of my father again.
Yeah, and then we see Jonathan. He's like, oh, and he like, puts his blanket up over his head like he's so scared of it. And Mona is asleep. And it cuts back to Angela out at the singles bar, and she's hitting it off with this fella, and they're maybe they're dancing. I think that was the thing they used to show a lot of in the 80s, was people just kind of doing like a real half-assed little standing in place boogie while they talk to each other. And
yeah, they're mostly dancing with their hands and arms and not with their legs.
Yeah,
like it says snaps and sways of the arms and not so much movement of the torso in any way.
So Angela's, they're having this conversation. They're kind of feeling each other out there. So, how long you been single? You seen anybody else? Those kind of questions, and they're both like, oh, I'm just too busy with with work or whatever. Oh yeah, me too. And then back to Mona and Jonathan at home. Jonathan is fully terrified. He's gone to his room, and he's put on a little plastic army helmet, and he has a toy rifle, and he has all his stuffed animals, and they've turned over the dining room table on its side, and he's peering over it. guarding the house while Mona sleeps because he's so scared. He's got all his stuffed animals and him behind the table, and he keeps popping up like, "Don't worry, we're gonna protect ourselves from the creeping face." And then it goes back to Angela, and Angela and this fella, they're slow dancing now. There's a nice song with some saxophone going.
There's a little more contact now.
Yeah.
The conversation's gotten a little bit less superficial about, oh, where are you at in life? Like it's not small talk. There's perhaps some little inside joke from earlier. They're pointing out the stingy bartender that's pouring very weak drinks, perhaps, or maybe one of the other members on the dance floor doesn't realize she has a giant run up her stockings that everybody's pointing out. Like there's something where they're pointing out there's someone else to make fun of so that they can come together. That's how this works.
They also just both agree that it's nice to not be thinking for the first time and as long as they can remember.
Oh yeah.
To not be thinking about work. And then they say, but it can't last forever. And they say, well, it could last a little bit longer. And then they kind of have that old 80s your place or mine kind of illusion.
For some reason, it's always coffee that they're going for. Because I guess that urban myth that if you've been drinking, you can just coffee it all away.
Oh.
So maybe
in my experience, all you get is arrhythmia.
Yeah.
Jonathan is having a terror. He's having a night of terror, a panic attack. He's fortified the house.
Is it possible he's afraid of Mona? Like she started watching it with maybe she's got some sort of chemical peeler mask on that makes him start.
Oh my God!
She's like the monster from the movie.
Right. Yeah. For some reason, she's fallen asleep and she's got a chemical peel. She's got a mud mask, and Jonathan is convinced that she is the monster with the creeping face. And it doesn't help that she's fallen asleep and she moans. She makes like a noise that sounds like or something. It's similar to the sound from the TV. And he's terrified. And he's talking to, "Don't worry, Mr. Bear. I'll keep us both safe."
Okay, so
maybe he
quotes
we got a line from the movie.
Going Kevin McAllister in the house, trying to keep himself safe from the monster, and meanwhile we have our couple en route from the singles bar, Angela and this nameless gentleman.
Angela ends up bringing this gentleman back to the house, unaware of the fact that Jonathan was not put to bed and has been up all night, horrified because he watched an old drive-in movie theater movie. So the lights are all out, except for the light from the TV. When Angela and her gentleman caller gets back, and she leaves the lights off, thinking that they're being sly and they're just going to creep into the bedroom, right?
Yes.
And Jonathan screams, right? And it fires his little cap pistol, right? He comes out and he's all in a costume, so he looks bizarre. Angela screams. Angela's date flips the lights on. Then he sees Mona with the mud mask. Then he screams, right? That wakes Mona up. Mona screams, jumps up out of the recliner, which frightens Jonathan even more. And he goes running out of the room. And then Angela says, what's going on? What in the world? Oh my goodness, you know?
Poor Angela just can't win.
Well,
We
it's a
took
death.
Tony out, and it's we're arriving in the same place, and her date's being ruined again.
Well, she says mother to Mona, and Mona says Angela. They're both confused, and then Angela's date says Mona.
Oh.
Yeah.
I actually watched an episode very similar to this where they're dating the same guy. But it was Angela decided she didn't like him, and Mona was like, he's a diamond in the rough, and then starts dating him, and Angela changes her mind the next day and makes a date with him and finds out that he can't go on a date with her because he's got a date with Mona. So that's
God.
very much some ground that they were
Yeah.
exploring.
Well, here's how's this then? We gotta add a twist. This can't just be the same rehash. As much as we all we watched this show and we're like, you know what's great is that they just kept rehashing the same dumb shit over and over, and somehow that was better than a show where it's designed so that you can watch it while you're looking at your phone. So it turns out Angela says, I thought you said you weren't seeing anyone. I thought you said you were too busy with work. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I am. She says, well, then how have you been spending time with my mother? And he says, Mona is your mother? And Mona is like, oh, like, I know it's hard to believe. And he says, that is my work. And Mona says, what? And he says, you owe me $300. He's a gigolo.
Oh, I thought he was maybe a plastic surgeon.
I specialize in titties so big they take up a whole freezer.
They're gonna have to build some giant conical contraption to contain these puppies.
So it becomes this whole funny misunderstanding, the classic "I didn't know you were a sex worker" gag, where Mona is now upset because she was bragging about how younger men throw themselves at her, and it turns out that it was just this this gentleman of the night who was just running up a tab on her the whole time. And Angela is still quite miffed about the whole thing. That she feels she was lied to because he said that that he was too busy with work to see anyone, and she just has an 80s appropriate misunderstanding of sex workers.
Yeah, and he's gone now. He can't come back from that. But that's sort of Angela the show. She has like a Jerry Seinfeld-esque span to her relationships. One episode, maybe 3 at the most.
Yeah. And so they both eventually, Angela and Mona, in this scene of back and forth dialogue where they're all, but you, well, how do you know him? And what does that? And what, they're just keep going back and forth with that. And then somehow Angela and Mona's lines stop being accusatory towards each other, and they both turn on this guy, right? And then he's like, hey, and I'm thinking for this actor, was Bakula already doing Quantum Leap? Because I could see a younger Bakula.
This show started in 1984. Quantum Leap started.
'89. Yeah, so this is
Yeah,
perfect.
so
This
we're
is
good.
pre-Quantum Leap Bakula. Right? And they basically they turn on him and he's like, whatever, like pops his collar up and saunters out. And then Angela and Mona have like a heart to heart, about what's really important in their lives. And Jonathan comes back in and he's, Mommy, is the monster gone? And she's like, "Oh yeah, no, the monster's gone." What? Why? Get it? Because they're talking about this guy that
and
they
then
both
Mona
decided
walks
they were
back
too
in
good
from
for.
the kitchen, and Jonathan screams.
And then Jonathan explains that he says something about how he missed her and he did, he was scared without her, and she says, "Well, I think now I've learned what's really important. There's only one man in my life." And then roll credits. I looked up. I think we talked about this on our weekly show. If that was in fact a Alan Thicke joint, and
Yes.
it was not. It was a guy by the name of Robert Kraft, who
I'm assuming not the Robert Kraft who owns the New England Patriots and enjoys Floridian rub-down joints.
only if he also was the songwriter for Tailspin.
Oh!
Yeah.
Well, that guy knows what he's doing. Yeah, he probably also did I thought the same guy did Tailspin, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, and Rescue Rangers.
I don't believe so. He did.
No.
He was the song producer for The Little Mermaid, but I mean, he's got some great stuff in the late '80s, early '90s. He was the executive producer of music on the Muppet Christmas Carol.
That's good.
He did Adventures in Babysitting, but he really seems to have gotten his career kicked off by being the musical director of Bruce Willis's TV movie The Return of Bruno. He also directed Bruce Willis's music video Respect Yourself. And he produced the Return of Bruno record. So
No, it explains a lot. It's very cheesy, but I like it.
I can't say for certain whether or not this guy likes a rub and tug in Florida.
But who doesn't, right?
Safe to assume, yeah.
As far as other people who worked on the show that I noticed that I jotted down in my notes, producer of this episode, first name of Bud, last name of Weiser.
I know, Bud Weiser, baby. I was like, wow, that is impressive.
Which, who's to say if I got a feeling that Bud isn't the name his mama gave him, but
yeah, it's a Rip Torn
yeah
situation. I'm looking on Robert Kraft's IMDb page, and he's got 16 credits on soundtrack. Right, he produced Spin It, the theme song to Tailspin. He produced the Gummy Bears theme song.
Also
or no,
very
wait.
good.
No, it was sorry. He produced a song in one episode of the Gummy Bears, which is probably how he got the gig to produce Spin It in a Minute, you can spin it in a minute if you spin it, spin it. Tailspin. But here's the saddest one. In 2005, it looks like he did a song on the Anna and the King soundtrack in '99, and then that was
that
he
the
really kind
Jodie
of
Foster movie, or was there an animated movie as well?
I don't remember which one Anna and the King is. That's the Jodie Foster one. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the live action.
So he kind of works sporadically here on actual writing music after like the early 90s. He basically just becomes like an executive producer on stuff. But he does have one soundtrack credit in 2005, and it is the Who's the Boss theme song, uncredited in the Stewie Griffin movie. Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah. But theme songs,
They are special.
I wouldn't be opposed to. Well, what do we've surrendered our theme songs to 2 more minutes of advertisements, and that's why we have such short themes. Like they don't do that anymore, because then you've got a 17-minute show.
And hell, half the time they don't even want 17 whole minutes of show. The Simpsons has like an 8-minute long couch gag every time now, because it's easier than paying writers to come up with good ideas. Well, any other notes, any other ideas, tweaks for this episode? Oh, what's the title of this episode? It can't be Ad Man Maselli.
Oh, it needs to be I don't know. I feel like we're gonna get better episode title areas from the B plot with Mona and Jonathan, like whatever the name of the fake movie is, perhaps.
The creature with the crawling face.
Maybe, yeah. And then we could probably write it where we could probably make Angela's date a little less appealing.
Oh, what if it was the creature with 2 faces?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
That way it's like, he was a 2-faced liar. And to be fair, to be clear, I do not believe that if a man is a sex worker and he wants to go out and actually meet someone, that other people should have expectations about what he shares about his personal life on a drink together with someone that you just met. He doesn't need to go into all those details if he doesn't feel comfortable doing it. And Angela was wrong for taking it so personally. But this is the 80s.
I don't know. I feel like once we revealed what his profession was, I think that we would have had to have built something into the script where the audience could see that was coming, and Angela didn't realize it, and he probably was expecting to be paid by her.
No. This is what I was getting at was that he wasn't lying, that he actually does, that he wasn't working and he was really vibing with her, whereas he was just it was all business with Mona.
Okay.
But they can't get over that.
Yeah, we would have. Our episode is more progressive than it could have been then.
It is more progressive in our conceit, but in the way that we write the characters, they're still 1984 sitcom characters. Yeah. And it's called The Creature with 2 Faces, and that's because it's like Mona and Angela find out that this guy was no good. A phony.
Well, I do have one question for you.
Okay.
This Who's the Boss was remade on British television as The Upper Hand. Do you have any ideas on how this episode would play out if there had been a Angela-centric version made on ITV?
Oh my God. I need to watch. How many episodes do they make of The Upper Hand?
But they one of the producers of Who's the Boss, I think, had died at that point. This is a I think it's like 2010.
Damn.
The other producer is credited on the Upper Hand.
Do you think? I don't want to. I just want to find out. I want to be pleasantly surprised. I'm going to try and find some episodes of The Upper Hand. I hope that the Tony character.
Oh, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. It's not that late. It's mid 90s. So it started roughly when Who's the Boss ended.
I want the Tony character to have like a really, really thick Cockney accent.
He's a former footballer whose
what
career
do
was
you
curtailed
think-
by injury.
What do you
Charlie.
think, Charlie? That's amazing. And in this version, Angela goes out to she goes out to a club with her girlfriends, because that's a more British thing. It's like they all like all these women who are fit birds by British television standards, but all look like characters from the Wallace and Gromit universe compared to American actresses.
Mm-hmm.
They all go out, and then there's a bunch of boys who are grown men, but who dress like junior hires at the prom, and they're all somehow inexplicably sexually attracted to one another. And then she finds out when she gets home with this lad that he was the soccer hooligan who punched her mother. That's it's that it's her mom, instead of being a sex pot like in the American version, her mom is a soccer hooligan.
Well,
And,
her mother in The Upper Hand is played by Honor Blackman, Pussy Galore herself.
I like my version better, but she's just a spicy old British lady.
Yeah,
who's
wearing
really
her,
into
her,
footy.
her soccer or her footy
She's got
uni all the time,
yeah,
not like a black cat suit.
All right, well, this has been Angela the show. I hope you like it, and if you do, go on over to the Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star. Give us a rating, write a review, tell people about how much you love our show. It's it doesn't matter really, but
It matters to me.
yeah, it only really matters to us that we know that people like what we do, because you don't tell us, so sometimes we wonder. All right.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, am I watching Who's the Boss for nothing?
Yeah.
Am I getting nothing out of this? I mean, I guess I'm personally, I would like dual streams of getting something, because I'm learning a lot about myself watching it.
Yeah. And to be clear, go on out and check out Who's the Boss. There's all the episodes are on YouTube, and it's better than you remember it.
That's true. I agree.
All right. So on behalf of all of us here at Angelo the Show, there's a path you take and a path not taken. The choice is up to you, my friend.
Yeah, you should move in with an advertising executive in Connecticut. That's the path you should take. We should all do that. Help them get their lives together while you get your shit together. Find a home for you and your daughter. It's just perfect and all, and there's plenty of slots are opening up as we speak.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, everyone, and good night.